Clerk, call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2. Here. Gary Vickers, Commissioner Precinct 3.
There you go.
He's here.
I'm here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Reverend Andrew Petta from the St. Barnabas Anglican Church in Fort Worth. Thank you so much for coming out today.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold public office, especially Judge Whitley and those gathered in council here today, spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that they may faithfully promote their offices to the steadfast purposes of your will. We ask this through the merits and mediation of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the court. Some announcements as it relates to the agenda this morning. Under the County Administrator section, item 9A9, this is the annual contract with MHMR for jail psychiatric services. That's a consent item. We do have 3 audience participation forms as it relates to that item this morning. So we're going to take that off of the consent agenda, and then we'll cover that whenever we get to it. Also, under purchasing, item 9I1, this is RFP number 2022-054. We are going to hold that for 1 week, and you will see that on your agenda next week. Talking about various court meetings, we are going to have court next week, which will be the 22nd. But we do not anticipate having court on the 29th. So there will not be a court on the 29th. The next court after next week will be the first Tuesday in December. Also, members of the court, as it relates to the agenda, we are going to take various items out of order. Once we get to the administrator section, we're going to go to the briefing section. We'll have 2 briefings. We'll take the City of Bedford Tax Incremental Finance Reinvestment Zone number 1 briefing first. Then we will do the Magnolia Lofts presentation after that. When we do get to the briefing agenda, we'll ask Mr. Tenasia to come up and talk a little bit about public health issues. We did receive a little bump in the coronavirus. We went from low to medium again, but we'll have Vinny talk to you all about that. And in our section, we have various community development projects. I would like to ask if James McClinton would come up now first. And James, they're running a new program. This will be just about 1 minute of your time this morning, but wanted to have James talk to you all about what he and his team are working on as it relates to developers.
Your Honor, members of the court.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going to hold our first ever development seminar. And so we are going to talk with so far about 40 developers from the local and around the country who want to come into Tarrant County to do development projects. And so we're going to talk to them about the tools that we have in Tarrant County that they can use and that will help them be successful as they develop inside the county. So what we want to get out of that, the outcome is when they come here or when they start developing here, they know exactly who to call and what we have to offer them.
Are we talking housing?
Housing and, yes, housing primarily because housing is such a crisis, primarily housing.
Let them know that the Housing Finance Corporation is open for business.
Yes, we will have a speaker there for the Housing Finance Corporation, and Megan South will be there for the economic development portion for those who are interested in that area also.
Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Thank
So,
you.
so this is something new that that James and his team have put together, and it's a step where we want to become more closer to the front of the line when we talk about not only housing, but also economic development countywide. So, congratulations to James for fostering this idea, and it looks like we're moving forward on it. Your Honor, that's all we have.
Thank you. Commissioners, any announcements at this time?
I do. But, I mean, no one's surprised, right? One, I just wanted to give everyone a reminder that next Monday, November 21st at 6:30 p.m., we will be hosting a virtual update on the Southeast Connector. So we will have joining us speakers from South Point Constructors as well as TxDOT. So this is to discuss the planned improvements for US 287, Interstate 20, and Interstate I-20. Of course, this is a huge project for our county, and it serves the entire region, but it's within Commissioner Precinct 1 and Commissioner Precinct 2. So we will just be hosting an informational session so that folks can get information about this project that is soon to be well underway. So please visit our official page on Facebook or Instagram to get, and we also sent out an email last week just to share information how you can register for the webinar. And then secondly, I wanted to just mention, obviously we had a pretty substantial election last week, and I won't get too much into what I think of all the results, but of course there was a new commissioner elected for Precinct 2, Commissioner-elect Elisa Simmons. I have visited with her multiple times over last week, and she and I are both committed to ensuring the smoothest transition possible for our staff members in Precinct 2, for the larger county operations, and then of course, and most importantly, for our constituents and taxpayers in Precinct 2. So she is ready to get to work, and our team is doing everything we can to help her to, as of whatever day that she gets sworn in, that she can get started right away in doing work on your behalf. Thank you.
I'd like to remind everyone that the United Way auction is still going. We have got a pair of tickets for the TCU Iowa State game in there. Now, we've extended the auction deadline to in December, but these tickets are for November the 26th, and so the auction for these tickets will end on Friday, November the 18th, that's this Friday, at 1 o'clock. And so please, if you're interested in these tickets, and you know the Purples won again this week, LSU beat Arkansas, and who did the Frogs beat? The Longhorns, right? I thought it was the Longhorns. I don't see too many Longhorns in here today. You know, it's just they're kind of low down, and it's just recovering Longhorns. So that was we had a good weekend of football for at least the Purples, and
The Maroons did not do very well.
no, the Maroons. Yeah, they started off.
Whoever they may be.
Yeah. But TCU, these are going to be great tickets. It's going to be a great game. So I would encourage everyone who might be interested to go to the.
When's the game?
It's November the 26th. I guess that's the day after Thanksgiving. Saturday after Thanksgiving. So
It'll be a great game.
it'll be a great game.
Hard to get tickets.
Hard to get tickets. Yeah, the way they're playing this year, it's always hard to get tickets.
Bid 'em up.
I too have talked with the 3 new members of our court, and we are going to do everything we can for a very smooth transition, and so I'm excited about that, and you know, it'll be fun to watch next year from that perspective.
Well, I've talked to the 2 new members of the court as well, and I'd like everybody to know that Judge-elect Tim O'Hare did keep his promise. He did call me the day after the election and set up a lunch. So we're gonna have lunch on this coming Monday. And we are committed to being able to work together and we'll see how that goes.
I think it's going to go. I think everything is going to go well. We've got a great structure in place, and I think it's going to be a great transition. So, with that, any other announcements at this time? Then I'll ask for approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of November the 8th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Fickus, you need to click your light. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We have a few proclamations and resolutions today, and we'll start off with the proclamation for Tarrant County Adoption Day, and we'll present that this coming Friday, and so I will move for its ratification at this time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. The next one, Leah, you and your group come on down. Whoever you'd like to bring with you. United Way 100th anniversary. Whereas the United Way of Tarrant County is celebrating 100 years of serving residents from every corner of our county this November, and whereas the United Way of Tarrant County empowers residents, volunteers, donors, businesses, governments, nonprofits, and community stakeholders to come together not only to fix problems, but to tackle the reasons those problems exist in the first place. And whereas the United Way of Tarrant County is supporting major areas of need and issues in Tarrant County, including healthy aging, financial literacy, veteran support, housing insecurity, emergency disaster response, community safety, basic needs, health equity, transportation, women's needs, education, and workforce development. And whereas United Way of Tarrant County works to build relationships and trust alongside the communities in which it serves, and whereas the United Way of Tarrant County encourages all residents of Tarrant County to get united to create change and build stronger communities for all, by all, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby congratulate United Way of Tarrant County on the occasion of their 100th anniversary for supporting our communities and enriching the lives of everyone in Tarrant County. Be it further resolved that we do hereby proclaim November 17, 2022, Get United Day in Tarrant County, and ask all residents to join in the celebration of and commitment to the important work to be done by our communities for the next 100 years, in witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of November 2022, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, let me get the right one here. Y'all can hold the plaque. I'm gonna use this too. Make that over conference all right. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Just quickly, first, just a major thank you and appreciation to this court. You all have for decades been supportive of United Way of Tarrant County, and it's always reflective in the unique and individual ways that each of the commissioners chooses to acknowledge and support the work of United Way on behalf of our community. It is indeed a huge accomplishment for an organization to reach a centennial anniversary, and we are proud to be the ones leading this organization right now. We know that there is so much work that needs to happen within our communities, and we are grateful for not just this moment of acknowledgement, but also the commitment for all that we do and we get to do on behalf of our citizens. So thank you for that recognition. We are excited to celebrate for probably the next year. You're going to hear us talk about it over and over and over again. You might get sick of it, but we really want everyone to understand that getting united means whatever it means for each individual. So get united with us for your community, for your friends, for your neighbors, for Tarrant County. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here today.
Education committees to, to basically looking at, just as we talked about in that proclamation, flexibility and the needs of what the citizens of Tarrant County need at that particular point in time. And I can't tell y'all how much I appreciate that flexibility that you've shown.
Thank you.
Over the years, and I'm, been very pleased with your leadership and as you've kind of taken over and made it a new united way.
Thank you. That's been our goal, is to be what we need to be for our community. Thank you.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes, this seems to be a TCU kind of day.
Yes, it does.
This past Friday, the university unveiled a statue for Dr. James Ireland Cash, Jr., a schoolmate of mine from I. M. Terrell High School here in Fort Worth. And though this proclamation has already been presented to Dr. Cash, we did it on Friday. I said during my remarks on Friday that we lift up Dr. Cash and we celebrate him as the shining example to the youth of our community that this is what we're talking about when we're talking about excellence and achievement and contributions to our community and to our world. So I'd like to read this proclamation into the record, just so we'll be clear about who we're talking about. Resolution of Commendation, Dr. James Ireland Cash, Jr. Whereas Dr. James Ireland Cash, Jr. was born in Fort Worth, Texas, and graduated from historic I. M. Terrell High School, where he played basketball for the legendary Coach Robert Hughes, the winningest coach in the history of boys high school basketball. And whereas in 1965, Dr. Cash became the first African American to sign an athletic letter of intent in the Southwest Conference at Texas Christian University to play basketball, and received conference and academic All-American honors before graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics. And whereas Dr. Cash received a Master of Science degree from Purdue University's Graduate School of Mathematical Sciences and a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Management, Information Systems, and Accounting from Purdue University's Krannert Graduate School of Management. And whereas Dr. James Cash is an Emeritus James E. Robison Professor and Senior Associate Dean of the Harvard Business School, where he was the first Black faculty member in 1976. And whereas Dr. Cash serves on numerous public, private, and not-for-profit boards, including General Electric, Walmart, Chubb, the Boston Celtics, the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture, and the National Association of Basketball Coaches Foundation. And whereas Dr. James Cash operates under the umbrella of the Cash Catalyst Personal Development Programs for executives in Global 500 organizations. The Executive and Board Symposium, the Cash CIO Forum, and the Cash IT Leadership Development Program. Now, therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby celebrate the unveiling of the Dr. James Ireland Cash Jr. statue on the campus of Texas Christian University and the many trailblazing contributions he has made in Tarrant County community and beyond. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of November 2022. And I move approval of this resolution.
Second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Wow. This guy, I wished he was able to be here.
Well, he currently lives in Sarasota, Florida, but Fort Worth is home.
Very, very deserved. Commissioner Allen?
Yes. Well, I'm honored to co-author this resolution with Commissioner Brooks. So we're splitting duties here. And I want to say that I'm honored to have been brought this opportunity for the court to recognize TCU and the 50th anniversary of Title IX by my Chief of Staff, Tracy Williams, who I know I've shared with you all before, and for some of you as TCU alums, know that she is the president of the National Alumni Board. She is the first African American to serve in that role as well. So while we are recognizing women and the work that's being done at TCU, I definitely did not want to forget to recognize Tracy and the legacy that she is setting and the records she's breaking, no pun intended.
You go, Tracy.
And so we have a number of guests that have joined us here today. I'm going to ask them to go ahead and come to the podium. We've got Kimberly Johnson, who serves as the Senior Women's Administrator of TCU Athletics. Leah Carnahan, the Assistant Director of Campus Advocacy and Resources and Education. Dr. Jonathan Benjamin Alvarado, Chief Inclusion Officer. Sharon Gooding, the Director of Office of Institutional Equity. Andrea McDew, Title IX Coordinator, Office of Institutional Equity. And then, of course, Ms. Tracy Renee Williams, ex officio trustee and National Board President. So whereas Texas Christian University, or TCU, has long kept a commitment to educating male and females as one of the first co-ed colleges west of the Mississippi when it opened as Adran Male and Female College in Thorpe Spring, Texas. And whereas prior to Title IX being adopted, TCU continued its history of providing access to education for students of all genders. And whereas in 1972, Title IX, which states, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance," was adopted into federal law. And whereas for the past 50 years, TCU has consistently acted to ensure opportunities for students, regardless of gender, to access all areas of study. And whereas in its commitment to equal access and opportunity, TCU has also increased female representation in faculty, staff, and leadership, achieving 49.2% representation of female faculty. And whereas as Title IX has had a tremendous impact of women in sports, TCU has added tennis, rifle, basketball, golf, swimming, and diving, cross country, track and field, soccer, tennis, volleyball, equestrian, and beach volleyball as women's sports. And whereas TCU is continuing its history of practice and expanding representation by adding women's triathlon in 2023, creating even more opportunities for female athletes. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby congratulate Texas Christian University on their commitment to upholding the statute, integrity, and spirit of Title IX on its 50th anniversary, and for its continued commitment to maintaining equal access to higher education to all students without discrimination. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 15th day of November, 2022. And with that, I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. This really is TCU Day.
Okay, so. Let me see if we can do something. We're gonna take a group picture. And then you'll be more than welcome to make marks. Markers right here. Thank you, Chica. Usually the judge warns about the flash.
The three flashes, yeah, I just,
That's all.
now, GK gets real, he gets real touchy about somebody touching his podium there.
Don't touch the equipment.
You didn't get it very straight there, but that's all right. Well,
Good morning, Judge Whitley. Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of Chancellor Victor Bashini and the entire TCU Frog community, we want to thank you for this acknowledgement of the effort and the success of Title IX at TCU. Title IX is more than compliance. It can and should be a lever that will continue to push for full inclusion and incorporation of all students who come to our campus and all folks in our community. We want to thank you for this resolution, and go Frogs. It's always good to have an undefeated nationally ranked football team. I would also inform you that you each have a commemorative lapel pin before you, honoring our Title IX accomplishments at TCU, and just know that the best is yet to come. So thank you so very much.
thank you.
I'd just like to point out that TCU is one of 6 great educational institutions in Precinct 1. TCU, Texas Wesleyan, Tarleton State, the Texas A&M School of Law, and Tarrant County College.
Very good.
So Precinct 1 is the precinct for higher education in Tarrant County.
Well, some might at least mention a couple
Suck
of
it
other
up,
ones.
Judge.
There's a couple of other ones that we might, UTA
That's all right.
is,
UTA, go Mavs.
yeah. Okay, our last proclamation is the 2022 Perioperative Nurses Week.
Very good.
Yeah, well, give me a chance. I've got a whole lot more opportunities to mess it up. They're not here this morning, but they're watching, and I want to read it into the record. Whereas perioperative nurses specialize in care of patients immediately before, during, and after surgical and other invasive procedures. And whereas serving in settings ranging from traditional hospital-based operating rooms to ambulatory surgery centers and physician offices, perioperative nurses work to provide the safest care possible for patients undergoing surgical and other invasive procedures, whereas perioperative nurses assess individual patients' needs, throughout the process by developing and implementing a plan of care for the patient and preparing the operating room for the procedure. And whereas perioperative nurses are responsible for monitoring all aspects of the patient's conditions during each procedure and through their professional and patient-centered expertise are responsible for the care coordination after the procedure. And whereas patients undergoing surgery and other invasive procedures along with their loved ones rely on the skills, knowledge, and expertise of perioperative registered nurses who uphold a long tradition of improving surgical safety and the quality of patient care. And whereas Perioperative Nurses Week recognizes the contributions perioperative registered nurses make for patient safety and the challenges facing the profession, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim November 13th through 19th, 2022 as Perioperative Nurses Week, in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this first day of November 2022, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. And again, we'll get the proclamation to them, but I did want to read that into the record. Okay, court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda, save and accept the item that has been removed, which is item number 9A9.
Second?
We have a motion second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Maynes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we can now go to the briefing section and go to item B. This concerns the city of Bedford, the TIF Zone 1, and the various amendments. Ms. South is here to introduce that particular item.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I think y'all are going to see me every court meeting up until the last meeting. This morning I have a request from the city of Bedford to propose an amendment number 1 to their current participation agreement. This would be an amendment to their original agreement that we approved back in 2021. This would only just extend the boundaries of this TERS. So this one was a little bit different. We had something called area development zones, or ADZs, within this TERS. And the request for this would be to add 2 additional ADZs to the zone. This is at really no cost to us. Everything for us would remain the same, other than just the addition of these 2 zones. So I do have Natalie Moore with Pettit and Associates here today. She's going to come up and give y'all somewhat of a deeper dive into the project.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you to Megan. And I do have to say I am an Aggie, but I did go to TC for grad school. And Tracy was my presentation coach, so I'm a little nervous knowing that she's going to be critiquing my speaking abilities this morning. But thank you for having me, and thank you, Megan. As she mentioned, I'm here with David Pettit, Economic Development. We're based here in Fort Worth. But we are here on behalf of our client, the city of Bedford. We are here to discuss an amendment to your interlocal participation agreement. As Megan mentioned, we are not asking for the county to contribute any more dollar-wise, but we are extending the boundaries of the zone, really casting a wider net to be able to collect increment from. Just to give you a little bit of background on this TERS, it was created in October 27th, 2020 by ordinance. It has a 30-year term to end on December 31st, 2050. The city of Bedford is contributing 75% of their real property increment. The county is participating at 50% of the real property increment, and we also have an additional partner in this TERS in Tarrant County College District. They're participating at 50%. The entire TERS was 57 acres, made up of 10 non-contiguous, what we call ADZs, area development zones. That's really just to help identify the areas. It's a non-contiguous TIF. And what we did is that we identified areas that we are anticipating there to be development in throughout the city. The ADZ number 1 is Bedford Commons, which is about 30 acres. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, but it's identified as ADZ number 1, and there's various public buildings located within that zone, including the City of Bedford Municipal Complex. Bear with me on this map. I know it could be a little bit difficult to see, but as you can see here, as I mentioned, it's non-contiguous, really identifying those different areas that we identified as having potential development that would be imminent. As you can see there, the largest one is 30 acres, ADZ number 1, and again, that's Bedford Commons. I am happy to report that since the inception of the TERS, the City of Bedford has secured a developer, Old Town Development. They secured them in May of this year, and they're moving forward with a mixed-use development there that includes residential and commercial. It's going to be a really great asset for the city. This is the 2 areas that we are proposing to expand the TERS to include. We are identifying them as ADZ number 11 and ADZ number 12. ADZ number 11 is directly adjacent to ADZ number 1, Bedford Commons, and so that's really just a cleanup there of including that area to be able to use TERS increment to do public infrastructure within that area if needed. ADZ number 12 is really what's driving this expansion. It's an 18.5-acre site that does have a developer working on it. It was previously a church building was included in there. And so it's going really from a pretty low basis to having proposed a $38 million increase in taxable value on that site. Again, a mix of residential in the form of townhomes, and then commercial. They are planning to have an anchor in the form of a grocery store, and then just a mix of retail and restaurants included there.
So that's right across from Trinity High.
I believe so, yes. It's right there on
So we have already
industrial.
seen your
Yeah.
event.
And you're also taking, it looks like you're also taking over that drive,
The drive?
the drive-in bank or the drive-through for the bank.
No,
I don't know.
Slip back to that slide
Let's
before.
see.
they're not taking the money.
I'm not sure if that bank building is actually included in there, but I can get that answered for you.
Okay.
Well, and then before you move on, so ADZ number 12, where is that in the context of the current ADZs?
So it's not identified on there, but it is, it's actually east of all those sites.
Oh, okay. Over there,
Yeah, it's,
somewhere in there. Okay.
yeah, if that's industrial.
Yeah, no, I couldn't see the streets.
Yeah, it's probably.
They're taking that 2-story building, Glenn,
Yep.
that faces the freeway.
Faces.
Oh, okay, I know where you're talking
And,
about
The
then.
bank, I don't think is part of it according
Yeah,
to.
okay,
don't
I see
think it
what you're
is
saying
either.
now. That bank is right there on the.
Is that on
bank
that
is right
hard
here.
corner?
And this is the 2-story building that faces the freeway.
Yeah.
And this is what used to be, well, Commissioner Fickus had their seniors event in there. But well, I don't know what it's called now. First Baptist Church of Euless used to be right there. And they had expanded across the street.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know exactly where that is now. Okay, thank you.
Of
Okay,
course.
I'm good. Thanks.
So here are the proposed terms for the expanded TERS. You'll notice that it's just about $27 million total in project costs, but the county participation is capped at $4.6 million. That is what was in the previous interlocal agreement. We're not asking to increase that. Again, we're just casting a wider net. Ideally, we will reach that cap in a shorter time frame, given that the boundaries have been expanded. We are going to be moving forward to ask Tarrant County College District to do the same, keeping their participation at the same level, but again, just casting that wider net. The City of Bedford is increasing their participation by about $3 million in project costs. There's no change to the term, and all the participation rates would remain the same. And with that, I will take any questions you might have.
Okay, no
Don't have
questions.
any.
You're
Thank you.
good. Tracy, she did good.
So since y'all don't have any questions, next week I will bring back the amended participation agreement for your approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Members of the Court, we can now go to item C under the briefing. This is the Magnolia Lofts proposal overview. Dr. Duncan is here to introduce that presentation.
Good morning, members of the court.
Morning,
How are
Dr.
you this
Duncan.
morning? I will let you know that I will be watching the Ohio State-Michigan game the same day that you guys are watching your game. And they're also undefeated, so I guess we're an Acorn and a Buckeye, and you guys are the Frogs. So.
Horned Frogs. Everybody keeps dropping the Horned Frogs.
Yeah,
Horn
frogs.
Yeah.
Great. Well, good morning. JPS submitted a competitive solicitation in 2018 to explore potential development opportunities for its land located on the corner of Bryan Avenue and Magnolia. As a result of that process, JPS ultimately entered into discussions with the NRP group, which will come up and speak to you shortly, about a potential affordable housing development on that site. JPS formed a public facility corporation, a PFC, for that purpose and worked with NRP to get awarded tax credits for the project, which were awarded in the summer of 2021. JPS submitted a ground lease in connection with the project that was approved by the court in August of this year. At that time, the court requested to receive a more fulsome update about the proposed project. The parties will continue to negotiate the details of the overall project and will need to agree on the final terms before the transaction is officially approved by the JPS PFC board, JPS board, and the court. But in the interim, we wanted to make sure that NRP had the opportunity to more formally present an overview of the proposal as requested by the court. So Jason, and I'll probably get your last name wrong, Archiga and Max Whipple will come up and give that presentation.
Now you know how I feel every Tuesday, or every first Tuesday.
Thank you, Karen.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. My name is Max Whipple with the NRP Group. I actually am a Michigan Wolverine myself, so I hope I don't get run out of the room here. But thank you for your time this morning, as Dr. Duncan did a great job of introducing. Sorry.
That thing's just not going to stay up there.
The height thing doesn't work for me. Did a great job of introducing the project. We've been working with the JPS hospital team for about close to 2 years now. And are kind of on the final stages of getting this project approved through the permitting process with the city of Fort Worth. And you know, we've worked on a number of developments across the state, and I'll tell you a little bit about our company as we move forward through the slides. But we're very excited about the partnership with JPS Hospital on this project. So a little bit about NRP, who we are. We're a vertically integrated developer. Originally based in Cleveland, Ohio, but we've been in Texas for about 20 years. What I mean by vertically integrated is we do the development, the construction, and the management in-house. And so what that means is the buck stops with us. You know, if there's issues during the construction phase, if there's issues during the management phase, you know, our contact information will be here, and we're a call away to address any of those issues. And so what we think that also does is gives us the opportunity, you know, when we're developing these properties, to look at efficiencies and how we can improve them moving forward. So, like I said, we were founded in Cleveland, Ohio, but we've been in Texas for about 20 years. We've developed over 25,000 units across the state, the majority of those being affordable housing units, but we do everything from affordable housing to workforce housing and luxury high-end market rate housing. So, you can see some of our accolades there as well. We're consistently ranked within the top 5, top 10 affordable housing developers and construction companies across the country as well. Healthcare and housing. So this has actually been a big priority of our company over the last handful of years. So this really got going with our Cleveland team. They actually worked on a very cool project in Columbus in partnership with Metro Health. I won't go through the video right now, but kind of the same concept we're looking at here was a partnership with Metro Health Hospital up in Columbus, Ohio, and we provided about 2,500 square feet of job training space that the hospital utilized to train new employees. And in addition to that, you know, the big push for them was looking at an opportunity to provide housing for a lot of the hospital staff as well. So kind of what we're looking at doing here with the JPS team as well. So Dr. Duncan gave you quite a bit of background, but again, we submitted a competitive tax credit application to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs in 2021. You know, the parcel, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the 9% program, but it's a very competitive process. to secure the tax credits that fund these transactions. There's about anywhere from 8 to 10 developments located throughout the greater DFW region that get awarded annually, and this project scored competitively enough to receive that. So the City of Fort Worth approved a resolution of support in favor of this project. The near south side is the TIF that oversees this area. They've voiced their support both verbally and financially to help support this project as well. But we were awarded those tax credits in July of 2021, which allowed us to move forward with the development process in the City of Fort Worth. So fast forward to now, we're basically through the permitting process. We're just kind of at the final stages and waiting to wrap up a couple of financing items, as well as the business terms with the hospital. But we're in great shape to get this project closed and under construction in the next few months. So some of the benefits here, you can see the parcel there. Again, it's located at the corner of Magnolia and Crawford Street. It's kind of I would say, underutilized car lot at this point in time. There are, some of the spaces are used by the hospital staff, but with the plans for the master plan, a lot of that's going to change in the future here. And so, what the benefits to the hospital look like, we took an appraised value. We worked with an appraiser to calculate what that value was, so we can assign an annual ground lease payment that the hospital would receive in return. And then we're still working through, the terms of the cash flow and developer fee splits with the hospital, but they will be the general partner and have the opportunity to own that asset after 15 years if they so choose. So I think that's an aspect that they were, I won't speak for them, but I think that, was enticing. So in addition to that, like I said, the big pitch here is that, as we were having conversations with the hospital, they were mentioning that a lot of their nursing staff is having to commute in 30, 45 minutes because they aren't able to afford, high quality, safe housing near downtown. And so we thought this was kind of a great opportunity where we could, do that through the 9% tax credit program.
Hold on just a second.
Yes, sir.
It appears to be adjacent to a very active railroad track.
Yes, sir.
Are you doing anything to provide noise abatement on those units that are directly adjacent to the railroad?
Yes, sir. So actually, where you see that picture on the top, that's going to remain a parking lot for now. And the development itself is actually going to be on the picture on the south, so a little removed from the railroad. But additionally, the state has certain noise requirements. They require us to conduct a noise study to ensure that the decibels are below 65 decibels in each residential unit. So in addition to having that setback from the rail, we'll be also building a kind of a noise wall that will remove that sound, reduce that sound down to under that 65 decibel limit.
Very good.
And then in addition to the units, we're also going to be providing about 2,200 square feet of retail space for the hospital to either utilize for their own benefit or to look at, as a further revenue source. So just a couple of examples of developments we've done similar to this across the state. This is Rio Lofts, located in San Antonio, Texas. Very similar in size and scope, about 80 units here. Ranging from 30 to 60% of the area median income. I'll touch on that on the next slide. Similar, community amenities, unit amenities that you'll see at the Magnolia Lofts project as well. So here's a little bit about the development itself. As you can see, that is the parking on the right side there, sir, Commissioner. That's going to be a little removed from the railroad itself. But we are looking at 67 total units. 7 of those will be market rate and 60 of those will be affordable. That's a priority of the city of Fort Worth, actually, is ensuring that there is that mixed income with affordable and market rate units. But in addition to that, we're really excited about the opportunity to provide the 2,200 square feet of retail space. So we're still working through the hospital on what that space will look like, whether it's job training, further, like I said, another further sublease opportunity. But that's something that we'll work on as we continue to move forward with the project.
How do you define affordable? What are the income limits?
So I'll get to that on the next slide after this. So this is a rendering of the proposed project. Couple slides, sorry, sir. And some of the amenities you'll see in the development, we'll have a business center, 24/7 fitness center. What we're really excited about is our children's activity room. I'll touch on that in a couple of slides about our supportive services that we provide for the residents free of charge as well. But a lot of these, all these amenities will be offered to the residents as well. So free of charge, no additional upcharge on the rent associated with them. I'll touch on the resident services and then I'll get to the income limits. Again, this is something that we provide free of charge to the residents. So I'll go back one slide. Couple slides, sorry. If you look on the bottom right photo there, that's an example of one of our children's activity rooms. So we work with a supportive service provider, CHR Resources, who's a supportive service provider for a lot of our developments across the state. They have an on-service coordinator that'll come in 2 to 3 times a week and watch the students for 2 to 3 hours after school every day. In addition to that, we also provide financial literacy training for the adults, first-time homebuyer assistance, English as a second language training, programs like that, again, free of charge to the resident to kind of provide them more than just a rooftop. So that's something we're very excited that we can offer as well under the 9% tax credit program. And then who we're serving. So a lot of this is dictated by the 9% program itself. Again, it is a very competitive process. And so that we have to choose an income mix that caters towards the state's scoring criteria. But what you'll be looking at this development is 10% of the units at 30% AMI, 40% of the units at 50% AMI, and then 50% of the units at 60% AMI. I'm excluding the market rate units, which is a city requirement. But that's the general mix that gets you to the full score with the state as well. And then that'll give you the breakdown on the left as well as what that qualifies in terms of an annual income per person is. So we also work with the hospital to identify how many of their employees would qualify at each of those income bands, and those numbers you can see there as well. So just wrap it up by giving you a high-level timeline. Again, we are basically fully permitted through the city of Fort Worth. We're just wrapping up the final stages on that. The last couple of items, like I said, we're just waiting on some financing through the state to come through. So we are anticipating in December of 2022 receiving a direct loan from the state of Texas, followed by supplemental tax credits. As I think a lot of you've probably heard over the last 12 months, there's been a significant increase in construction costs and interest rates, which have made these projects very difficult to get over the finish line. So the state's kind of stepped in and offered these supplemental tax credits, which will help get the development kind of over the finish line as well. So once those two come to fruition, we anticipate working with the hospital the hospital team and getting final board approval with the goal of being under construction by next summer and getting this thing completed by December of 2024. So I think that answers everything. I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have about the development, though.
I do have a question for you. Was it Max?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned when you were breaking down the units and what percentage of AMI, the 7 units at market rate, you said that was a city requirement. And I don't represent any of Fort Worth, and so I'm not tracking what their standards or rules are, but will you just elaborate on that?
Yes, so these developments, again, everything is very, very competitive. And so in order to score the maximum points, you must receive a resolution of support from the city council of the respective jurisdiction. So if you get a resolution of no objection, you would actually lose points that would render your application non-competitive. So the city has their own criteria for receiving that resolution of support, and one of their criteria is that you have 10% of the units at 30% AMI, and then also that you have 10% of the total units as market rate.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. Thank you very much. That's helpful.
Other questions? I'm assuming that this is all off the tax rolls?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't think we have any other questions at this time.
Thank you.
It's a great project.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And there's really not any action that we'll take on this, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, members of the court, we can now go to the administrator's section. On item A1, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court receive and file the coronavirus staff report for the week of November 7th through the 13th.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we can go to item number 2. This again is an item that's a standing item. It's an informational item mainly for the court. There are no changes to the fiscal recovery funds budget on the agenda this week. Also, there are some various projects that we are going to ask your approval that are contained within that budget. Those are on attachment A. We're requesting that you receive and file this court communication.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, on item number 3, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve a development project addendum to the TechShare Master Interlocal Agreement for stakeholder participation in the TechShare Agenda Management Program. This is a program we've been having some major difficulties with agenda management. It's a coordinated effort between our office and the county clerk's office. We believe that working with TechShare, and I believe this is going to be about a 4-month project, that we can develop a management system that will be very flexible, something that not only we can use, I believe that other counties in the state can also use, and at this time we're requesting approval.
Move approval.
Second. We don't need to vote. Everybody seconded it. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
So, members of the court, on item number 4, we're requesting that the court approve sub-recipient agreements between the county and the Community Enrichment Center and the City of Fort Worth. These are 2 different agreements.
City of Fort Worth or City of Arlington?
I'm sorry, City of Arlington. These are two different agreements. One will fund the Community Enrichment Center Food Pantry Expansion Program, and the other will fund the City of Arlington's Library Homebound Service Program. Staff is recommending approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, we can now go to item number 5. This again is a sub-recipient agreement between the county and the Tarrant County Homeless Coalition. This is to provide support for the ARPA housing program. This grant is, or this sub-recipient agreement is for $50,000. It covers administrative support activity with the Continuum Care and the Homeless Coalition, and staff is recommending approval.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
So, member of the court, on item number 6, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an ILA between Tarrant County and MHMR of Tarrant County to operate the Tarrant County ARPA Family and Individual Support Program as part of the FRF funding program.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Do we not have public comment on it?
Not
No,
on this one here.
that's
We're
on that.
moving on
That's
item
on
number 9 whenever we get to that.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. I'm good. Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
So, members of the court, if we can now go to item number 9. This is the one that we removed from the consent agenda. What we're requesting, this is an annual contract that the county has with MHMR of Tarrant County to provide behavioral health and intellectual disability services to the inmates in the Tarrant County jail system. One thing I'd like to point out is that in the background, what this does, as you know, we triage everyone for mental health services as they come into the jail. After the identification, the program staff works to divert the individual from the criminal justice system to an alternate program well suited for the individual's needs. What this also does, it provides psychiatric services inside the jail, and it works to do the competency hearings that we have very great concern about. As I said, this is an annual contract that we do, and staff is requesting approval at this time. We do have 3 audience participation forms.
You stated that part of the contract, part of the triage process is diversion of people from the jail to treatment?
So whenever we get to the point of, for example, the competency hearings and the restoration, excuse me. So what we do, we will go ahead and do an evaluation as they come into the jail, and this is a requirement by the state. And initially, the jail staff does is any indication on that document that we need to go ahead and have some type of psychiatric services or mental health services provided, then MHMR also looks at that and they begin a path for those individuals. So,
but this relates to competency restoration,
competency and
not mental health restoration.
But there are some aspects of this that we find that there are individuals that are better suited in a different environment. Maybe they need to be hospitalized in, for example, down at JPS for their 48-hour treatment program, something like this. We can also move them to that. Normally, there's not a lot of that happening because what we do, and as the court is fully aware, we have various programs that try to divert individuals from the jail to begin with. The jail diversion program, as you're very well familiar with, the law enforcement liaison program, which we fund a tremendous amount into that program. And we don't really talk a whole lot about it because it's been there for such a long time, but it's actually treatment before out in the field we find someone who needs mental health services or follow-up services. So there are some diversion, but mainly this here provides treatment inside the jail itself.
But to be clear, it does not provide the kind of diversion at the jailhouse booking unit to the mental health jail diversion center.
That's correct. And maybe we were not clear in our court communication on that, but the program that this court has been talking about is looking somewhat at the Houston model or the Harris County model. This is not that type of program.
This is not that. Okay. Well, it needs to be that.
Right.
But
right.
All right.
So, Your Honor, we do have some audience participation on this. Okay.
First is Julie Griffin. Good morning.
Good morning, members of the court. My name is Julie Griffin. I'm a member of Broadway Baptist Church, and I'm here as part of the Justice Initiatives. I'd like to address the court on this contract between MHMR and Tarrant County for mental health services for the folks over at the Tarrant County Jail. I'd like to raise a couple of issues about the contract, not in opposition, but in discussion of its context. That context we have discussed before. A great number of persons at the Tarrant County Jail have mental illness, or at least mental health issues, and are at the jail on low-level nonviolent charges such as criminal trespass. We have raised before, and the members of this court, you all here, have confirmed the Harris County Mental Health Jail Diversion Center as a model for our Tarrant County community. We would certainly want any contract setting out the duties of the jail staff and MHMR staff not to lock in Tarrant County in any way that would preclude adoption of the Harris County model. We see such adoption as affirmatively including the determination in appropriate cases that persons being booked could actually be referred back to the Mental Health Jail Diversion Center. We believe that experience teaches us that this is sorely needed. While our knowledge is small on the intake and booking process at the Tarrant County Jail, we believe that MHMR personnel are not actually at the booking or intake station at the jail. This only takes place when jail staff or JPS staff alert the need for MHMR to be present for evaluation or identification of mental health needs. We would like to see clinically trained mental health professionals involved in the intake process, just as we understand it, a JPS nurse is present. Which raises another issue we advocate for. the implementation of a contract that includes all three of the interrelated entities that provide care and protection for the incarcerated: the jail, JPS, and MHMR. We understand that this contract is based on funds provided by Tarrant County Hospital District to the county, which then are redirected to MHMR for purposes of funding the mental health services that MHMR provides to the jail and its clients. It is puzzling that the three institutions providing direct care, protection, and services to the incarcerated at Tarrant County Jail do not have a unified, integrated document setting out the duties and parameters of each. It would be fruitful for accountability and even perhaps for lowering deaths and attempted suicides to have such an instrument in place. I hope you all will consider these suggestions and comments in your decision to implement the contract and for future action. Thank you for listening.
Let me comment that this contract does not preclude, it does not include, but it does not preclude
I'm so glad to hear that.
diversion to the mental health jail diversion center. That's a separate process.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brooks.
Doreen Geiger.
Good morning.
Morning.
My comments are not specifically about the contract, but just about three areas that I hope the county can work to improve when you're dealing with the mentally ill citizens of our county. Number one is more training for all levels of law enforcement who are called to respond. I'm talking about the first line responders, whether they are sheriff's deputies, whether they are officers in police departments within the county, to make them better educated in how to approach those that have mental illness. Second, speeding up the timeline for inmates to be given needed medications. You can have someone who's schizophrenic that gets picked up and arrested. Yes, they're going to be evaluated at some point when they're booked, but I don't know how long it takes before they are able to be administered their medications. Thirdly, more use of the jail diversion center for mentally ill and homeless persons who are not violent. Thank you very much.
And I would say that many of the cities have put all of their officers through training that is available with regards to dealing with folks that have mental health issues. And as Mr. Manius mentioned earlier, we have, MHMR has a 24/7 line that officers can call and find out whether or not the individuals that they're encountering have a history of mental health issues, and help and possibly what they can do to make that case and to make the thing a little bit easier from that standpoint.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Harriet, Harold, come on down, Harriet. Harriet. How are you working this morning?
Thank you. As you know, I also am with the Justice Committee at Broadway Baptist Church, and want to say I am not in opposition to this contract, but there are three concerns that we wanted to be sure were on the table as you consider it. And the first one relates to our conversation about exploring the utilization of the Harris County model here. And I am delighted to hear, Commissioner Brooks, that you can assure us that this contract does not preclude moving toward that. And so I just want to be sure that you are reaffirming your commitment to exploring this diversion model, because it will reduce overcrowding in the jail, it will better utilize the mental health diversion center, and it will assure that sick people are treated for their illness rather than incarcerated. Secondly, we applaud the new language in this contract that addresses inmates who are currently taking psychiatric medication upon coming to the jail. We continue to be concerned, however, that the intake process does not include a mental health professional. We understand that there's a JPS nurse at intake, but there's no requirement for that in this contract. We believe with the high percentage of inmates exhibiting mental illness that there should be a mental health professional to identify such illness that should be treated ideally, as we've said, and as you just said, Commissioner Brooks, in a mental health facility. This brings into focus an issue that we asked about in our very first meeting with you, Judge Whitley, and with the sheriff, and that is why there is no written agreement, contract, or MOU between the county and JPS regarding their health services to inmates at the jail, such as we see in this contract with MHMR. The only contract we have found between the county and JPS relates solely to JPS paying the county the money that is then used to pay MHMR for their mental health services. If you look at the contract that is on the agenda to be approved with MHMR, it clearly spells out what MHMR is expected to do and how and when and with whom they are supposed to do it. It also spells out exactly what the sheriff and the jail staff are supposed to do related to mental health issues. JPS is barely mentioned. It's mentioned on page 10, yet JPS plays a significant role in these services. We are asking, why is there not anything that says how JPS, jail staff, and MHMR are consistently expected to coordinate? And where is accountability spelled out? As you know, our committee and others have been advocating for an independent investigation of the deaths at the jail. If that happens, I expect one of the first things that would be looked at would be agreements with the health service providers. And so far as we can find, there isn't one with your major vendor. So we are advocating for three things in the context of this contract with MHMR. Continue to explore the Harris County model for diversion. Include a mental health professional at intake, and that there be a unified document that clearly identifies the responsibilities, expectations, standards, and accountability of all three entities charged with preserving the health of inmates. And those entities are the jail, MHMR, and JPS. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, do we have a motion and a second?
Move approval of the contract.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have some questions.
Okay.
So GK, not person by person, but categorically, who all was involved in the drafting of the contract? And I get this is an annual thing and it's year after year, but I'd still like to make sure that I understand for this current contract, who all is involved in the drafting?
So this is a contract that involves both, or three parties. It's the county, it's JPS, and it's also MHMR. If I could just make a comment or two, and this may have some clarification. We've historically worked with JPS and MHMR to make sure that these services are provided. Probably several years ago, we worked with the district attorney's office also in providing guidelines that were now embedded into this contract to make sure that individuals needing or mental health services, that there was a time period that they had to come before medical staff and the psychiatrists that we have working. As it relates to the general medical treatment of inmates in the county, in jail, not psychiatric services, those are items that we discuss every year, and we had much greater discussions in the earlier years, but as we approve the JPS budget, part of that budget contains expenditures that relate directly to providing full medical care for individuals housed. And it's based on the premise that everyone who's in our jail currently resides in Tarrant County. And if the indigency aspect of those, that's why JPS is fully involved at that level. The services that we have always provided, medical services, at one time were somewhat more limited at the jail and more extensive at JPS. As you know, when we build out some of the newer pieces of our jail, we put in 2 full medical floors so that we could provide more medical services in the jail itself, and that alleviates some taking to JPS. But also, whenever we're fully staffed with JPS nurses and doctors that deal with the medical side, not the mental health, but the physical medical side of the jail. And if there's a determination that an inmate in our jail we can't provide those services in our jail, then they're transported to JPS. That's the policy and the direction that we've had. One reason that our contract is we've talked about a contract, but the process is we have that full understanding. We have that understanding when this court adopts the JPS budget, and we work on on that basis. Just a point of clarification.
Okay, so back to my first question about the county partners, or about those involved in the drafting of this. So you said the county, JPS, MHMR, and then, so the county, that would include the sheriff's department, that would include the DA's office. Are there others?
And the county administrator's office.
Okay. So I don't know that I understand why we would not tie the actions of this contract along with the mental health crisis diversion center. So if you could help me understand, why wouldn't we tie them together? I get that this contract would not preclude us from adopting the Harris County model or any others that would hopefully achieve the goal of diverting more people who aren't meant to be in the jail, but who would be better served elsewhere. Sure. But why wouldn't we tie these together?
So it's look at it this way. This contract is for mental health services for those people that are incarcerated in the jail. Okay? The diversion center is for individuals who have not even entered the jail system yet. We are in the court is wanting to review the Harris structure, and that's where they may initially enter the jail but be diverted. So it's really based on incarcerated, which is this contract, versus non-incarcerated. And these are simply services that we provide in our facilities. If there's a desire, we're going to continue talking about the diversion aspect. And that's why we bifurcated those 2 service lines, one for incarcerated individuals and one area that the person is not incarcerated.
Okay. So during the drafting of this contract, was it discussed, and as I understand it, so one, correct me if I'm wrong, but there isn't a qualified mental health professional at screening. Is that correct?
You know, it was my understanding that we had someone on the line. I'll need to find out and get back with you on that.
Okay.
I do know that there's a questionnaire that everyone that enters our jail system, it's a state-mandated questionnaire. I don't know if it's 7 or 10 questions. And if any one of those questions that are initially answered in a certain way, then it automatically flags that person to see a mental health professional. For example, one of the questions, do you feel like being arrested is going to jeopardize your job? And they're fairly simple. If they say yes, well then they're diverted to, or at least being able to put on a list to be seen by MHMR.
So you're saying it's a self-attestation, which if someone is having mental behavioral health issues and they're completing this questionnaire, then wouldn't there be some cause for concern as to whether or not
That is just one element of how we determine if someone may need. It may just be simply an observation by the jailer that sees that. You know, I think what I want to do before I get too deep into that particular area, I'd be more than happy to get MHMR up here, you know, in a week or so, just simply to discuss that element of it.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think the individual themselves are filling out the questionnaire. I think they're being asked questions by the booking.
That's correct.
Officer. Just gentlemen, come on up. He may have some insight into this.
I could just add, we do have an MHMR rep at the back door at the jail. They see JPS and MHMR, two individuals, before they do anything.
Before they even get to the booking?
Right.
Okay.
And it's been that way for a while, and I don't know if MHMR is here to defend that or not, but we do have a station. I've stood there with them for hours as they book people in. So, I mean, we're doing everything we can.
Okay.
I've always thought that we've had that.
I wouldn't go too far.
That triage there also. But if we need a much more detailed discussion on that, let us get MHMR in here to talk about that also.
That'd be great.
That may be beneficial to everyone in the audience on that too, just to clarify that particular aspect of it.
Yeah, okay. I've got two more questions, and one actually may have to be discussed and closed, but on page 10 of the contract, it's the third paragraph from the bottom. And reading this is concerning to me, and perhaps I'm reading it with not the proper understanding, but it says, if it comes to the attention of MHMRTC that an inmate is compliant with psychiatric medication that appears to be causing a negative side effect or adverse reaction, a physician, a PA, or an APRN shall take corrective action if necessary by no later than the end of the following day.
So those particular elements that you're seeing in that part of the contract is part of the discussions and that the district attorney's office and MHMR and the commissioner's court, we talked about this also, were necessary. And that is the outside date. They can be seen previous to that, but no later than that one date. So that is not something that's new in this contract. That's something that the criminal district attorney's office, MHMR, agreed to, and the commissioner's court has previously entered into this contract.
Sure.
And I will say that, Commissioner, that when we did that, the timing was really tightened down. Whenever the necessity to see some type of mental health service provider from the previous one. So this is the tightened down version that the Commissioner's Court eventually approved.
I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't feel tight enough, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I do have concerns about that.
Okay.
And then my last question, I don't know if you want me to ask it or wait until close to ask it, but it's regarding liability.
I think that that's one thing we'll talk about in closed.
Okay. That's all I have.
So, TK, what is going to be the process by which we get to analysis of, discussion of, and possible adoption of the Harris County diversion model as it relates to diversion from booking to the mental health jail development center?
So what, I think we need to bring that up as a full workshop into this court. Just remember that's going to also be things that are going to affect staffing within the district attorney's office. In January, we're having a new criminal district attorney come into office also, and those modifications can be made upon approval of the court, but the district attorney's office is also going to have to approve that because it is a different element within how we currently work, simply because everything that we do today is pre-entry into the jail. The Harris County model has another, basically a station in a review by their criminal district attorney's office that determines if this may be some individual that may be more maybe better suited or better treated at a diversion center.
Because right now, as I understand it, you know, as we've said, when they hit that diversion center, they have still not touched the county.
That's right.
But once they touch the back of that jail, they now come under the purview of the sheriff. I mean, the police brought them there. And it's up to the police whether they bring them to somebody who's charged with criminal trespass. It is up to the police as to whether they bring them to the diversion center or they bring them to the jail. It's my understanding that once they bring them to the jail and they leave them there, they now are in the custody of the sheriff, so they have now entered our county system.
And just think about it this way, Your Honor. Prior to when a police officer stops an individual, let's say for trespass, and the officer can definitely tell that this is an individual that might need mental health services. That individual the potential arrestee can have an option to go to the diversion center. That individual is not arrested at that point. That's very critical. He's not arrested. He is simply volunteered to go there. The police make a determination that it's better served that they go to the diversion center rather than make the arrest. Once the arrest occurs, then now there's an offense tied to that.
And everything at that point, once they hit the back end of the jail, the DA is now responsible for determining what happens.
If it's and criminal trespass is a Class B misdemeanor, so then that falls within the people that we bring into our county jail.
So, yeah, and as you mentioned, we've got a new DA coming January 1st, so between now and then, I mean, short of the DA saying we're going to start this immediately right now, then there's nothing as a court we can do.
And I strongly suggest that even in those discussions that we may have before then, you know, the new district attorney needs to be a part of it.
Needs to be a part of it.
It just simply needs to be a part of it. Commissioner Allen, did I answer all of your questions except the liability issue?
Well, and then the others, the other questions, I think if MHMR were here where they could elaborate and talk about the practicality of how things are done and.
And I appreciate, Chief, you being here to clarify that one point. If you'd like, and we'd be more than happy, and I know MHMR would be more than happy to come and brief the court in session just on all the details. Okay.
I would not like for that issue of getting to the Harris County diversion model to slip off of our agenda merely because we're expecting changes in the district attorney's office and in this court between now and January 1. Okay. We can be talking about it.
Sure. And
doing research.
Sure, absolutely.
And I do think we need to have the new district attorney a part of those conversations.
I don't have a problem with that.
And for the court's information, since the issue has resurfaced about the Harris County model several weeks ago, we have been in discussion with Harris County to clarify just exactly how their processes are and how they implement them or execute them.
Thank you, sir.
If there's no further discussion, then please.
I do have a question that I wanted to ask in close, if we could wait till after that.
Okay, then at this point in time, we'll withdraw if Commissioner Brooks is willing to.
I'll withdraw my motion.
And I'll withdraw the second, and we'll hold until after closed.
Thank you.
So, members of the court, if we can go to the auditor section. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the release of approximately $20,267,000 of collateral and accept the substitution of securities and market value of the same amount as requested in the letter which is attached to your court communication.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have motion and second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Good morning. Okay. Interlocal agreements, Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have an interlocal agreement?
Yes, has this been approved by the district attorney's office?
Yes, sir, it has.
I move approval of item 9L 1A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Appointments today.
I have one, Your Honor. For the Trinity Metro Board of Directors, I think each of you may have a copy of his resume. I would like to appoint Brian Hawkins from the city of Blue Mountain.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. And Commissioner Fickus, I believe you want to make an appointment.
I do. I want to appoint Catherine Rotter to our, I believe it's the Bedford.
No, it's the city of Euless, TERS number 3.
Euless, TERS, yeah.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Maynes.
Thank you, Members of the Court. We have one final briefing item. That's the health report from Mr. Tanajan.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court. I'm back.
Morning.
With an update. So COVID level has shifted from low to medium. Not a surprise, but currently there's really one indicator leading that charge, and that's our recent hospitalizations in the last 7 days. You know, they kind of flatlined, as I mentioned last time, a couple of weeks ago, and just hovered a little bit above the threshold that's sort of separating the low and medium band there. Rest of the indicators are flat and turning. So this could be sort of early. I might think that we still have an RSV, and I'll show you that in the next slide. But on COVID, there's one point. There are data points across the country that are turning, but more centered on sort of the southwest. So Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, all of these areas. They're starting to see some activity pick up, turning into medium and high, mostly high in those states. So it could be coming, but rest of the country looks okay, and that's good news for now. So I'm a little worried about the medium, but not as much as if all the other indicators were starting to point out. So that's on COVID, and then really quick, like I said, flu is the major story here. As you can see, the entire country right now is starting to turn colors on the map there. You know, Texas is a deep red. I don't think I've seen that in a long time on our flu map. So that's very high activity. And then, you know, some of the southeastern states, if you will, they're at purple, which I don't think I've recalled seeing that in the last 8 or 9 years since I've been reporting to y'all on the flu map here. So it's quite an interesting flu year. So everybody needs to take their flu shot if they haven't already done so. So that's kind of the main message here. RSV, it seems to have peaked here in Texas. If you look at the little graphs on the right, you're starting to see those downward declines starting to develop. Hopefully it continues downward because flu being high, you know, it impacts everybody. RSV, mostly young kids, sometimes seniors, but really young kids, daycare age. So the children's hospitals were really overburdened, and then add on the complication that flu season brings. I think that's a really bad news right there. but hopefully we'll get through it without much issues. And final update on monkeypox here, really, starting to decline here and stabilize. So the vaccination efforts have been going well, but the interest has really waned off, and cases are really starting to wane off as well. So that's all I have on the disease front. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I do have one question, Vinny, related to the flu. In years past, there had been an issue with, I'm not going to refer to it correctly, but it's basically like the flu shot for seniors or older adults. What's the correct
So it's the
reference?
high-dose flu.
High dose,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So is there an issue with that this year in terms of availability?
I will have to check. Every year, flu vaccine is kind of a conundrum. Sometimes, it comes in spurts. The vaccine gets ordered in February, March, based on best guess estimates of what might happen in the fall. And there's a mismatch sometimes in supply and demand. We may, or whoever the provider is, may order some more of a type of vaccine and may not need it, or vice versa. They might order just a little bit based on what happened in the last couple of seasons and then end up being short. And it's very hard to make orders now when you're in the season because most of the vaccines, pre-sold.
Yeah, okay. And then my second question is on monkeypox.
Yes, ma'am.
Since the change in how there was a change in how it's administered and now it's subcutaneous, and I saw a news report that's actually, that it is affecting people's willingness to get it because of some possible side effects. Will you talk about that, please?
So,
And have we seen that here?
Yes, ma'am. So it changed from being subcutaneous to intradermal.
There we go. Okay.
And if you've ever taken a PPD skin test for TB testing, that's usually the intradermal route. And so the issue was that it does kind of bubble up and leave a little wheel, if you will, on your skin. And a lot of people don't like seeing that, obviously, because it's there for a while as the body goes through that reaction. And then also some social stigma, because people who took the vaccine in their arm, they've got this little big welt, and their friends are asking, hey, what's this for, and all that. So CDC did come up with the recommendations that you can do it, on the shoulder or on the back of the scapula, so it's kind of hidden away from, just open view. But it has caused some issue from uptake standpoint. I mean, that's just a national discussion that we've been involved in. And then really just people didn't like seeing, normally you take the shot and you forget about it in a day or so, but to have that mark there for a few days, people just didn't like seeing that, and that was kind of one of those, social stigma concerns that came up after the vaccine administration was changed.
But so we're not seeing like a slow uptake in it here because of those?
I'm sure there's been some resistance because of that, because that's just all across the country. We did see some, slowdown in efforts related to it. But overall, I think our community did okay, as you can see in the numbers. I mean, they're declining, and the vaccine uptake slowly but consistently keeps increasing. I mean, we're not seeing big numbers like we were earlier. It's a trickle here and there. So the special clinic got ended at Resource Connection, and now it's available in our brick and mortar clinics.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we have a couple of public comments. First is Cody Warden.
I came here 3 weeks ago with some serious concerns, and one of those concerns was the malicious prosecution that is still ongoing. The Fort Worth Central Division has informed me that the officer who falsely arrested Manuel Mata for filming on a public sidewalk, Officer Bingle, has been removed from the Central Division because what I believe is they themselves know that they violated the man's First Amendment rights. However, the DA's office is still prosecuting that case. Another matter is in regards to Officer Cox. Officer Cox sexually assaulted Carolyn Rodriguez. I myself was sentenced to 45 days in jail and a year of probation based on somebody's word and was found innocent. My cases were dismissed. How is it fair for me to sit in jail 45 days without bail just based on somebody's false statements and placed on an ankle monitor. But Officer Cox, the sheriff's deputy who's currently employed, being paid with taxpayer money, was never charged and still is continued to be paid. I guess not in my county's off the table when it pertains to officers sexually assaulting women. I was here last week and you said you told me to speak to the DA's office about the unlawful trespass that was issued by Officer Womack for filming in a public lobby, which is a violation of my First Amendment rights. I have spoke to the DAs before I came here. They're the ones who recommended me to come here to take that matter up. When I first came 3 weeks ago, you informed me, I have it on video, that I would be on the agenda last week, which was false, because when the time for me to be on the agenda came, then you said I was not going to be on the agenda. I've also taken it to the sheriff, Bill Wayburn, the unlawful trespasses and the sexual assault, which I was never responded to about. I believe one of the solutions is the sheriff's deputies need to have body cameras, and the body cam footage should be fully accessible to the public. I also want to add, in the case where I spent 45 days in jail, when the officer was coercing somebody to make false statements about me, the DA's office to this day still has not released that body cam footage. What I'm asking the county judge and the commissioner's court to do is ensure that we have equal rights under the law, which is a constitutional right. So if you're going to lock somebody away for 45 days without bail who's innocent, just based on somebody's false statements, why not do the same to a police officer who sexually assaults a woman and it's on video? But anyways, that's all I have. I hope you guys do something about this, and I will be filing a federal lawsuit against the county today. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next is Daniel Bennett.
Judge Whitley, Commissioners, I want to talk about the appraisal district, and I want to talk about something that occurred this past Friday. There was a request by 3 people on the board to place an agenda item as part of the agenda. Richard Diott, Jungus Jordan, and I believe Ms. Burgess. They were talking about the appointment of agent forms. There's apparently something going on right now that's they're accusing Chandler Crouch of doing something with these AOA forms. They're called FIDs. It's a slang term, a TAT. Ms. Wildman did not put that on the agenda. It's on video. You can watch it. And she tried to correct Mr. Diott, saying Mr. Diott requires 2 board members to get this on the agenda. Well, then Jungus Jordan spoke up and said, well, Catherine, I asked you to put that on there. So from August to here just recently, the agenda, that item was not addressed. So I want to talk about the chief appraiser choosing Gallegos and Walsh to investigate the matter of Mr. Randy Armstrong filing against Mr. Crouch. Those who don't know what's going on, I won't give you the background in 3 minutes. But Mr. Law was allowed to choose a gentleman named Todd Clark. He has a long history with TAD. Mr. Clark's bill for doing this was $25,000 for what I think is administrative malfeasance. His traveling expenses, just to travel one way from Austin, was over $900. He made 2 trips, $4,000 in travel costs. As a comparison, the board's attorney travels from Round Rock at $190 an hour, and he charges 1/3 of that for travel. When I was sued to keep the Open Records Act, the document out of my hand, they also hired Gallegos and Walsh, and that cost TAD $15,000. So between me and Chandler Crouch, there's been over $45,000 in legal fees on 2 items. Now I want to talk about Jackie Wright in my last 45 minutes. The DA prosecutor for theft of service is $2,500. Well, based on what happened over at the appraisal district, I believe there potentially could be some liability for county assets not being used correctly and maybe theft of resources and services over there. I think DA needs to look into this. Mr. Clark wrote an executive summary report, but there's a full-length report that I have put an open records request in, and I believe they're going to say it's attorney-client privilege. But I believe the DA, instead of having to go to the Sheriff's Department or the City of Fort Worth and filing a charge to get the investigation started, the DA needs to call Tad and get that full-length report and do an assessment on the matter between the appraisal district and Mr. Crouch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
Then we will now recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
checks?
Opioid.
Oh, I meant to ask about that.
Yeah, that's what I said to him, so hopefully we can get a briefing pretty good. Pretty soon.
Yeah.
Having returned from our closed session, we're going to put a hold until next week on that item that we had, that item 9 under the administrator's report. So there is no further business for us to take at this time, and we stand adjourned.